Step into the freedom of summer with jewelry that reflects who you are and where you're going. From sunrise to sunset, Pandora jewelry transports you to paradise. No passport required. Think of things like ocean charms, colorful tennis bracelets. You can shop all of these new arrivals to add to your summer staples. Be unmissable and vacation ready. Feel it, live it, embrace it, be love. Shop in-store or online at pandora.net to discover new styles. I am so excited to see so many people talking about perimenopause and menopause, but honestly, it is a long time coming and way past due. For literally hundreds of years, society hasn't wanted to talk about menopause, and when they do, they make it sound terrible. So Walgreens is helping women change the perception and take back our narrative, because nothing is sexier than being in control. Let's reframe menopause together. Join the hashtag #MenopauseIsHot conversation and help reframe menopause.
You know, I think that's one of the biggest things in this day and age with the online community. It's so great, but you have to just remember that all of it is a lot of white noise, the good and the bad. Like, you really can't get so consumed in the positive comments just as much as the negativity that's there too, because your opinion of yourself is valued solely on you and who you are and who you look at in the mirror, and knowing that it doesn't matter what anybody else says.
Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Okay, y'all. If you have ever dreamed of being an influencer, or maybe you are one and you're still trying to figure out how to grow, how to monetize, or how to stay sane in this wild digital world, today's mastermind is for you. In today's episode, it's a behind-the-scenes pass into the real world of influencing, the origin stories, the mindset shifts, and the business moves that help these everyday people turn their passion into a platform. We've pulled together the best moments from past interviews with creators who've built their brands with intention. You're going to hear from Lewis Howes, host of the legendary podcast, The School of Greatness. Lewis shares how he went from sleeping on his sister's couch to running a media empire, and why connection is the most valuable currency. Gracie Mercedes is an actress and creator who talks about showing up online authentically, especially as someone who didn't fit the traditional influencer mold. Camille Styles, one of the OG lifestyle bloggers, opens up about building a beautiful brand and a business that's lasted for over a decade. Amber Kemp-Gerstel reminds us why color, creativity, and joy are strategic assets, and how she turned crafting into a full-time job. And lastly, an interview with Naomi Davis, aka Love Taza, who reflects on how she built a massive following by simply sharing her everyday life as a mom in New York City. These are real people with real stories, and their wisdom might just be the push you need to take the next step. So, whether you're growing your audience, launching your first brand deal, or just dreaming of what's possible, this episode is full of inspiration and strategy to help you get there.
My name is Amber, and I am today the creative girl behind a DIY blog called Damask Love. I have always been a creative girl. I have not always been a creative person in my career path. Originally, as I was working as a psychologist, I started a blog about crafting because that was my hobby. And it was kind of what I did in my off hours. As soon as I got home from work, that was the thing I was excited to do, was to craft things and to make things. And on a whim, truly, I started a blog. I think on day one, I decided what I was going to call it. And on day two, the thing was live. So
that's the best kind of blog.
That's the amount of forethought that went into it. And it started as a hobby, as a place to share the things that I was making. And at that time, blogs were certainly popular, but there wasn't kind of the title influencer did not exist. And I had no intentions of making any money off the thing. I just was like, this will be my creative outlet. But over time, it picked up speed and picked up steam and gained a following very organically. And I eventually decided, well, I guess I could turn this into a job. And honest to God, the reason I decided to, like, maybe I could make this shift was one day I got this email from a company that wanted to work with me. And they flat out told me in the email, they were like, we're short on time, so we want you to do 6 posts and we're going to pay you $18,000. Yes. And girl, let me tell you that $18,000, I mean, $18,000 when you've not been making much money as a blogger, it sounds like you can move mountains and change lives. So I said, well, of course, I took the $18,000 and I said, well, if there's people with marketing budgets like this, that means that enough $18,000 makes a salary, and I just need to find those people and avail myself to those opportunities. So that's when I decided that I would kind of, in the back of my mind, plan to eventually leave my job as a psychologist and pursue a full-time gig as a blogger, whatever you want to call me, content creator. And so I did. And probably about a year and a half later, after I'd had my son and was feeling extremely overwhelmed by the role of mom, blogger, psychologist, wife, all of those things, I kind of got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I had saved up a year's salary by that point, knowing that if I left my job and never made another dime, that at least I had 1 year to figure out if I could be a successful, entrepreneur. And thankfully, a year later, my business was continuing to grow and to thrive, and I was able to continue doing what I'm passionate about, which is getting people to tap into their creative sides that I believe everyone has, but just needs a little bit of help or a little nudge or a little direction on finding it. When I was getting paid the $250 for a job, I just felt like, I don't know if I can make enough $250s to make this viable. And it took that $18,000 number to really be the wake-up call. Once I got that email, I think what allowed me to grow that into a full salary or enough money to be worthwhile to leave my job was the fact that if you're going to work for free, which I think a lot of us do in the beginnings of our business for exposure, because there is value there when you're starting. If you're going to work for free, you choose who you work for free for.
Oh, yes.
Everyone, every brand, everyone out there wants free content if it's good. So if you're producing free content, don't wait for the free opportunities to come to you. Go get them, because as soon as you say, I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z, here's what I think would work great for your brand, or here's how I think we could partner in this way. And what I'd love to have in exchange is for you to post this content on your Instagram, or here's what I'd like to receive this product. Lots of people want that deal. So you really have a lot of power as the content creator to decide who that person is for. So in my case, I blogged for about a year or two for Martha Stewart Living. I didn't continue doing that into perpetuity because I knew that working for free was not going to be a great avenue for me. But I did know that if I'm going to work for free, I'd rather work for free for Martha Stewart than work for free for the person that you've never heard of before and don't plan on spending any money there.
Yeah, totally.
I know physically I would sit down and write a list of this is what my dream collaboration would be, or these are the people that down the road I want to be working with on a long-term basis. And I would write it down. And if something came along that was aligned with getting to those brands, then I would take it. If it wasn't, then I said no, because you don't have to do everything that comes across your desk if it doesn't align with where you see yourself going. For me, not everyone, when I tell people what I do, often people say oh, I would never want to do that. And I'm just the opposite. I now know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I feel like that word was not meant for me for a long time, because I felt like that was intended for people who had it all figured out and like knew the ins and outs of business and were very savvy in that regard. And I didn't consider myself to be that. But I think what I've learned, and I think what anyone listening likely might be feeling, is that as entrepreneurs, I think part of the reason we're entrepreneurs is because we are constantly figuring it out, and there is no point at which we have it figured out. And that's what entrepreneurship really is. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable with that title because I know that's what I do. But I continue to be passionate about what I do because we have, and you and anyone who's in this kind of industry, we have this really unique opportunity of reaching far more people than we could ever reach with a brick and mortar store.
Absolutely.
And reaching people and changing their lives in whatever medium that may be. For me, that's crafting and creativity. So yeah, I mean, the messages I get every day, the emails I get every day from the people who are inspired by what I do, that's what keeps me so excited about it. One of my biggest struggles has been hiring. And it's twofold because one, I have a lot to learn about hiring, and I've really been trying to dive into ways to educate myself about that. But secondly, it's hard to hire when your job is to create content that looks pretty, looks fun, but doesn't necessarily convey the hustle that goes into absolutely everything you do. Mm-hmm. Because just because it's rainbows does not mean it's not hard. Just because it's a pretty photo does not mean we didn't have to take 60 other ones to get the right one.
That's a good quote. Just because it's rainbows doesn't mean it's not hard. You should put that on a shirt in glitter writing and sell that on your website.
There we go. We got a new product.
Perfect. I want one.
But you know, I often get people who say, "Oh, I would love to work with you. You inspire me so much. I would love to, be a part of what you do in the studio every day." And often that is a red flag. And I think it's something that for other people who are in my position of either hiring or looking for people to work with, that's a red flag that they're not quite at the point of understanding that it's a business. And as for every piece of glitter I throw onto cardstock, there is an invoice. There's a whole bunch of QuickBooks. There's a million emails that go back and forth negotiating rates. There's updating media kits. There's web design. There's SEO. There's all of these things that are not pretty, mm-hmm. but that are very much the things that go into making this a viable business. I often, when I speak at like workshops or conferences, I often say that, 100,000 Instagram followers, a business does not make. A business plan is what makes a business. And I was just reading an article earlier about a girl who has maybe more than 1 million followers. I don't know, but continues to fail when it comes to the business. And so, yes, absolutely. To answer your question, the business is what keeps the lights on around here.
Yeah.
And just because I don't show it does not mean it's not happening, because it absolutely is. I almost feel like in order to start an Instagram account, you need to take like business 101, because you can't expect that the Instagram following alone is going to carry you. It's the business smarts and the know-how that are going to make you, give you the longevity. I don't have a huge Instagram following. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, but my business is doing great. It's doing just fine. So you can't assume that one correlates to the other directly.
Visiting South Dakota was always one of my someday things. Like, well, someday I'm going to go see the Dakotas, and someday I'm going to walk through Badlands National Park, and someday I'm going to see Mount Rushmore in person. And then a couple summers ago, I just made someday today, and it was awesome. The kids and I had the most amazing time. We went hiking. We saw Mount Rushmore, which is like shockingly more majestic than you think it would be. We had amazing dinners. We stayed in this awesome log cabin in a national park. It was truly one of our favorite family vacations. And I loved it because it was this great blend of seeing a part of the U.S. I'd never seen before and being outside in nature. So maybe it's time you turn someday into today. See why there's so much South Dakota and so little time. Plan your escape at travelsouthdakota.com. My favorite part about Thrive Market is that I don't have to think about it. As a mom of 4 kids trying to get dinner on the table, make sure there are enough snacks in the pantry and items to fill their lunch boxes, it is so nice to not have to think about whether or not the ingredients in what I'm shopping for are actually good for my family. This is the beauty of Thrive Market. It's your favorite health food store, but online and way more affordable. Not only can I get my favorite products, but I also always find brand new ones that I didn't know existed. Things like Ora Bora sparkling water or Unreal dark chocolate bars with coconut. Oh my gosh, have you guys had those? Thrive has supplements, household items, and clean beauty too. All of their items are vetted and all way more affordable than you think. Skip the junk without overspending. Head to thrivemarket.com/rach to get 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift. That's thrivemarket.com/rach, thrivemarket.com/RACH.
I'm Camille Styles. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of the lifestyle site CamilleStyles.com, where we produce daily content that's all about living life like you mean it. I lead a fantastic group of 7 women out of our studio in downtown Austin, where we produce photo and video shoots. We research and write articles for the site. We just produce everything that you see across all of our channels. And I'm also a mom to 3-year-old Henry and 6-year-old Phoebe. So people have started to call me one of the OGs.
You are the OG,
which
as far as I'm
so weird,
concerned.
but it's cool to look back and see kind of the evolution. I started my site 10 years ago. At the time, I had started an event planning company. I was in my early 20s and started my site as, well, a blog really then. It was in the early days of blogging when people weren't really making a living as a blogger. Totally. It was definitely a fun side hobby way before there was an influencer economy. And I mean, it was pre-Instagram, pre-Twitter, all of that. So the landscape looked really different. But I was a journalism major in school. I'd always loved to write. And for me, my blog felt like just the most fun creative outlet. Looking back, it is funny to see how I think I kind of downplayed it though, as just this like little side creative hobby. And I was afraid in the beginning to look at it as something that could be something bigger. I think I was afraid to dream too big or, that I might fail or sound silly. But I found that I was getting up early and staying up late to work on my blog and just fell in love with the process of creating content and having an audience to share it with. But it is really interesting to look back and see the way that the site has evolved over the years and just the content itself. In those early days, I was still at a point in my career where I think I was trying to be like the next Martha Stewart, trying to kind of emulate what I'd seen others doing before and having success with. And so when I look back at those early posts, I see a lot of perfect parties and how to impress your guests. And, there's nothing wrong with that type of content if it really brings you joy. But over the years, the site has really come to embrace as its core message authenticity and imperfection, and really just going from looking at beautiful things to wanting to empower our audience to really live life on purpose and show up fully. And it's where that message of living life like you mean it comes from.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for that piece in everything that we're doing. I think that anyone who's had a blog hopes that there's this one point where there's like a tipping point where everything suddenly just blows up. But like most of us out there, my story really was one of grit and determination and just showing up and being so consistent in creating content day after day, even when I didn't feel like it.
Let me ask real quick, just so we can unpack that for listeners. What does consistency look like when you're just starting out? Versus what does consistency look like today? Because I think that kind of changes over time, how you show up in the beginning, let's say when you're hustling and you're new and you don't really know what you're doing, consistency could be, I'm just going to make sure I post every single day of the week, versus now consistency might expand. So it might be how often you post, but also the quality of the work. Like, can you talk about the evolution of your consistency?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do often have more up and coming bloggers ask me how often they should be posting, or, asking me how often I post. And it is two totally different stories, because as we've grown from a blog to a lifestyle publication, we're posting, 5-6 times a day sometimes, and have contributors all over the country. So it's a totally different scenario than where I was when I started out. I think consistency can be even a couple times a week if you are creating that relationship with your community and creating content that is so high quality and thoughtful that they are going to come to you no matter how frequent the posting is. But I think that for your audience to know and be able to count on the fact that when they come to your site, there's going to be something new for them to ingest. And I think just that you're always creating and always trying to do something new is so key. I do think that I started the site with a real focus on creating the highest quality content that I could, and that's grown over time. At the beginning, it was me trying to figure out how to create or how to take a better photo. This was before iPhones were taking really great photos, so I had to figure out how to work a DSLR. Really honing my styling skills. When I look back at some of those earlier recipes, I mean, the styling is horrendous. And that just continues to evolve. Yeah. But I think that I love looking back at those earlier posts because it does show that growth and evolution, and our journeys are just seeing that journey is so important to understanding who we are and what our own stories are. I would never go back and delete an old post because I think it's something to celebrate. It's funny how as I've gotten better at creating good content, I think I've also gotten more okay with not looking perfect, which in a way sounds counterintuitive, but I think that desire to look perfect or look good enough in front of an audience, no matter what size that audience is, it's something that can be really hard to get past. But I think that, if you really are engaging with your community and wanting to connect with them, that realization of like embracing your flaws and imperfections is so important, because that's ultimately the only thing that people really connect with. I think for years, my biggest struggle was really being able to define what my own point of view was. It's really easy in the space to kind of look to your right and look to your left and see what others are doing and how they're having success doing something a certain way. And it really takes a lot of courage to do things your own way. And I think that realization came from my own struggles. For me, my biggest challenge has been really figuring out that balance between kind of being the kind of mom and wife and friend that I want to be, with being the kind of businesswoman that I want to be. And some days, I definitely am still failing at it. I'm maybe with my kids, but my mind's a million miles away thinking about an email or an Instagram caption that I'm writing or something work-related, and just keeping me from being truly present. And what I realized was, if this is a struggle that is really close to my heart, and it's something that all of my friends are feeling, really every woman I know, then it's probably something that our audience is feeling too. I think that in this age of being constantly connected to our devices, that struggle of wanting to be more present but feeling really distracted is something that's felt by everyone. And so that realization led to me taking that to my site and realizing that I wanted to use our content to kind of scratch my own itch and learn how to become less distracted, and use our content to help our audience be more present in their lives and be more intentional. And being able to articulate that and really having that crystallize as our core message sent me on a path of really starting to carve out a unique point of view that I felt like was my own and that was different from what I'd been doing as I walked in the footsteps of other people.
Absolutely.
We all have that piece, You know the one. The thing that's so you've basically become known for it. And if you don't have yours yet, you'll find it on eBay. Let me put you on, fashionistas. eBay is where you'll find those one-of-a-kind, can't stop researching, stay up dreaming about pieces. Again and again. I'm talking that Miu Miu off the runway red leather bomber, the Custo Barcelona top with the cowboy on it, or that Patagonia fleece in the 2017 colorway. All these finds are on eBay, and they even offer millions of main character pieces backed by authenticity guarantee. eBay is the place for pre-loved and vintage fashion. eBay. Things people love.
Hershey's milk chocolate with whole almonds makes for a wholly amazing, wholly delicious experience that's, well, wholly Hershey's. Everyone should get to experience the satisfying surprise of a whole almond tucked inside creamy Hershey's chocolate. So don't wait your whole life to try Hershey's milk chocolate with whole almonds. And if you've already had it, then chances are you're already a lifelong fan of this confectionery delight. Find Hershey's milk chocolate with whole almonds wherever candy is sold.
My name is Gracie. I'm from New York City originally, but I've lived in LA a while now, about 12 years. I've done a lot of things. Okay. I've had many jobs and I've done a lot of things. I started as a producer at MTV right out of college. And then I eventually moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting, which is something I always loved, but never thought I can actually do as a job. When I first moved here, I also started styling on the side because I didn't want to wait tables anymore. I started hosting and doing like online hosting. And it was actually the hosting that brought me to blogging. Okay. Because I had gotten an on-air host agent who had told me, and this was about 7 years ago. Okay. He's like, the world of hosting has changed. You can no longer just be like an attractive person who can speak on camera. Yeah. You have to have a niche. You have to be an expert at something. And I was like, well, I'm a stylist and I work in fashion, or I love fashion. He's like, great. Turn your website into a fashion website. Yeah. And so it started as more of an inspirational website, kind of like Because I'm Addicted, if you know that site, where it was things I loved, lookbooks, Fashion Week, things like that. It wasn't until I discovered personal style blogs, or OOTDs, which at first I had no idea what that stood for. Like, that yeah. And I thought it was such a weird thing. I was like, these girls are just taking photos of themselves. Like, I didn't really get it. Yeah. But then I had a photographer friend shoot me in my clothes, and I was like, let's just try this. Yeah. And that's kind of when people started following and started becoming interested in me and my blog, and around the time when brands started reaching out. And back then it was just free clothes. It was like, here's some cute stuff, can you wear it? And if I liked it, I did. Yeah. But then eventually that turned into we'll pay you to wear this. Yeah. Which was like, what? Yeah. And then that turned into, probably over the last 3 years, like a full-time job. It's a lot of work. Yeah, totally. And now, so now I'm a fashion blogger and an actress. So as an influencer these days, my money usually comes from collaborations with brands, mostly fashion brands, but some lifestyle brands. A brand will approach, I now have representation, a blog manager, which is like a whole nother world. Yeah. But like if you're an actor or a writer and you have an agent, it's kind of the same thing. Brands work with them to secure influencers. And then these influencers then go and create content for either your blog or your Instagram or both. And that content can be unique to whoever the influencer is. So for me, a lot of times it's a simple outfit post. It's take whatever thing they're trying to plug at the moment and style it in my own way, photograph it, write about it, put it on my blog, put it on my Instagram. Sometimes it's more interesting than that. Sometimes it's like a video, or sometimes I'm just traveling. Sometimes I'm just talent, where I just have to show up on a photo shoot. Those are the best days. Yeah, those are the best days for sure. Yeah, I have one of those days on Monday. I'm like, yeah, when you can just like be the like talent and not have anything to do after. Yes, that's the best job. Yeah. So yeah, that's how you make money. And then some influencers make some money through affiliate links, but I honestly, that's never been a big moneymaker for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't use it enough.
Yeah.
But it's just never been.
Because media is so crazy, and I'm sure for you it's the same way. What worked for us a year ago doesn't work for us now. It changes so fast.
It's changing all the time, and I'm constantly frustrated with that. Like, I just don't know what people want anymore. Sometimes I feel like, I don't, what do you like? Like, what do you want? But I think with that is like, you know, the space is way more oversaturated than it was when I started. And when I started, I didn't start to make money because you couldn't make money, or I didn't know you could make money. So I was just doing it, one, as a creative outlet, and two, to kind of support my hosting career, which it ended up giving me really great opportunities. I did 6 months as a style host. I did like a style segment on Access Hollywood in conjunction with My Habit, which no longer exists, but it's owned by Amazon. And I did that for 6 months, and that was kind of when I realized like hosting wasn't necessarily for me. Like, I might host something if I create a show. I would like host my own show. Yeah. But it made me realize like, oh, well, I don't really want to host, but this has led to the blogging, like blogging full time and figuring out that world. But yeah, it does change every day.
It really
I feel like people want different things every day.
Does,
like sometimes they really love a photo of me and my husband, and sometimes they don't care. Yeah. You know, and sometimes they love my dog, and sometimes they don't care. Yeah. One of my pieces of advice is to, while you're trying to see what works, also try not to compare yourself to other influencers, because that's like just such a killer. Yeah. And especially for people like me who started a while ago, I feel like it is a stagnant time. It's really hard to like break through and like get a bigger following. And then you see these like guys and girls who popped up a year ago, and they're like 500,000 followers.
Like,
you're just like, how did this happen? But totally. I do think it's like, there's something about, oh, well, they're new and fresh and exciting. And so if you have been around, then you have to almost reinvent yourself constantly.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Have a very, very strong point of view. Don't start a blog that looks just like everyone else's blog. Don't do exactly what everyone else is doing. Don't post the same stuff that everyone, like if I see one more latte, I'm going to shoot myself. So it's like things like that. Try to reinvent yourself. Funny I said that because I just shot a latte. It works. I'm like, you'll see a latte in a couple of weeks from me. But I think, especially if you can have a strong like niche or point of view. I'm always encouraging like moms who want to start blogs. I'm like, pimp out your family. Like, people want to know about your kids, and they want to know about your husband, and they want to know how you do it all. And like a lot of times people shy away from showing their kids, which I totally understand. But if you want to work in that world, it's about
your life.
It's about your life.
Yeah, totally.
So you have to be open to that. So I think having a specific, and you know, I've talked to girls who are like, oh, I don't know, I feel like my style is like too out there, and I'm like, no, be out there, perfect. But embrace that you're out there and really go for it, because not everyone is out there. My website hits have cut in half probably over the last year or so. And my Instagram has definitely grown, but it hasn't grown so much. So it is this weird place where like, but I will say, on the flip side, brands always still want a blog post.
Agreed.
They still want you to have that blog post.
Yes.
Because, you know, Instagram is a thing right now. But, you know, so was MySpace at one point. You know, things like disappear. Yeah. And, you know, a blog could be forever. Yeah. Like, that's not going to go away. I think with that, like, I'm redoing my blog at the moment. Hopefully the new one will launch like the end of December, right before the new year. And I've changed the format of it to look more like a website, like a magazine, to be more about Gracie Mercedes and less about like fashion and style Gracie. So I think that helps, just reinventing your site and changing with the times on your blog as well.
Totally.
But yeah, I do think less people are apt to go to your blog.
Yeah.
I have been 12 years ago, like way back in the olden days, I feel like, of the internet world. I started a blog. I was in between my junior and senior year of college. I was here in the city. I was studying at the Juilliard School. I was getting my BFA in dance, and I was newly married. And so I felt like I was just trying to find a domain that I could host big, large files of my wedding photos and things like that. And so Blogspot is what I found could work. And so That was 12 years ago.
You're an OG. If you had a blogspot blog. I had a blogspot blog. Yes, those are the old days, the golden age.
It's so funny to think about how far it's progressed and how it's changed and evolved, like long before social media, Instagram. I feel like Facebook was super exclusive. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
I remember we were going around having to like sign a petition at my school to be recognized as a university that could
so you could
possibly get access.
Yes, yeah.
For me, I was a dancer. I loved dancing, and during my experience at Juilliard, I kind of felt this shift. I've always been a creative. I've always loved to create. I've loved anything in that field, but it was always dance. It was like eat, sleep, breathe, dance, you know, the quotes that you see on Pinterest and things. And there was just this shift where I felt burnout, and I felt like I needed to see if there were other things that I could find that could kind of ignite that creativity again inside me. And I think we're living in a different time than we did back then, because I feel like it was really hard. I feel like you're told, like, this is what you're going to do, stay in your lane and do that. And it was really, I felt like I didn't really know or have the tools or skill set to think like, well, what about this? Or how can I bring that into it too? And can I go into this lane a little bit? I mean, it just felt like you get a job in a corporate office and you stay there your whole life, or you get a degree in that and that's what you do. And I feel like the whole world just opened for me as I graduated, and I really started to try to figure out what it was that made me happy as a creative person, and trying to explore that. And I feel very fortunate that through my blog in those early years, before it became what it is now in terms of the blogging world or just the online world, I was able to really find my voice and kind of gain an audience, a following, almost like a happy accident. It wasn't what I was starting out to do. It was never my intent. It was several years before I realized, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of people reading this. It was a couple years in, I think we were getting a couple million unique visitors each month. And that was kind of wild, because back then it wasn't, you weren't promoting yourself on Instagram or Facebook, or it was really more word of mouth, I guess, right? I mean, you probably can relate. I feel like it was just kind of a different ballgame.
Well, and I don't even think that we didn't understand what analytics were.
Yeah.
That didn't, at least for me, come until later when you were trying to monetize those analytics.
Everyone's like, well, what are these numbers? And sometimes for me, I'm like, I don't like to look at that a lot.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get caught up in that, because I think it can really mess with your head. And
for me, it's like, put your head down and do the work.
Yes,
and
I
that's
love
what,
that.
just like creating. And then what a beautiful thing that it ends up, oh gosh, you're actually doing really well.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things in terms of how everything came out to be what it is now was just really focusing on something that I really loved and finding my voice and really staying true to that in the first few years. Like you were saying, that I had no idea that, I didn't monetize it. I didn't make money for several years. It just wasn't what even my end goal was. I wasn't like, oh, well, someday I'm going to. It was just, I really enjoyed sharing, and I loved the online community. I think it is full of some of the best people. And for me, I've been a big documenter, a big sharer, but I also just really love the fact that we can connect with somebody on the opposite side of the world. And they don't even have to be the same sort of, they don't even have to be a mother or at this age in their life, but we all share such commonalities, and to know you're not alone, or to know that there's other ways to do something, and to be able to hopefully help somebody see that in their own life. It's, for me, I've never wanted it to be, since I document and share a lot of my life, I've never wanted to be like, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. I've wanted to be like, no, this is my little adventure. This is me trying to get out of my 2-bedroom apartment in New York City with my 5 little ones and go explore. And this is my message to you to go do that too, like make an adventure of going to the post office or whatever it is. It's been, for me, the most rewarding part, and it's why I've kept going and felt like I've been able to really just enjoy what I'm doing every day, which means so much to me.
How do you have a business today? Like, how have you monetized what you have created?
Several years in, so I started in 2007 with the blog. Several years in, I my husband, he was always so great at helping me with the content side, helping me figure out a domain and how to lay it out and all of that stuff. But a couple of years in, he really was the one that was like, I think we were one of our first brand partnerships was with Sweet Green. We were living in DC for a couple of years, and they were a very small, I think they had like 3 stores back then. And Nate Rue, one of the founders, had reached out, and was like, let's get lunch, like, let's collaborate, let's figure something out. And my husband was just, I at the time, like, I was just not a business person. I didn't know how to approach that. I'm like, I don't know what to tell someone a rate is or deliverables or how do I go about this. I really don't know. And he was just so great at being like, let's do, like, I'll help you. Like, let's do this together. You know, what you're spending so much time, putting so much effort and work into what you're producing every day. Like, let's see if there's a way to organically bring in a brand or a company and kind of find a way to collaborate in a really authentic way. For me, I mean, I have a very hard time looking at it too much from a business perspective, especially because the space we're in changes so often. Like when I started it, I had no idea this is what I'd be doing. 5 years ago, not even, and even looking 5 years down the road, it's hard to know what this landscape will look like. For me, I've always just really loved sharing and I've loved connecting, and I'm really excited to try to find different avenues to do that. I'm working really hard on a book.
Yes.
But I think it's so important for people to realize too, with all of this, that you just have to get out and try. Like, I remember even with photography, I had an acquaintance who was a big photographer who said, oh, like, well, you can never call yourself a photographer because you don't have a degree in photography. So, and I remember really taking that to heart and being like, oh, yeah. And so I always was almost apologetic whenever even with a brand, when, you know, and they're putting a dollar amount behind the content that they're asking you to produce. And I was always really hesitant, or almost kind of like, it's probably not very good. Like, I hope that I can reshoot it if, you know. And I finally just realized, like, I would never want to diminish anybody's degree or their experience or what they've worked for in that field when they really have worked so hard to be a photographer. But I've worked hard too in a sense of being self-taught, I guess, you know, and I've Googled things and YouTubed and tutorials where I'm like, what does this button mean? And how do I do this thing in Lightroom? And I've just taken the camera out and played with it. And over time, like, you do learn and you grow. And I mean, I still don't really say like, oh, I'm a photographer, but I'm very proud of the content that I put out. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things in this day and age with the online community. It's so, so great, but you have to just remember that all of it is a lot of white noise, the good and the bad. Like, you really can't get so consumed in the positive comments just as much as the negativity that's there too, because your opinion of yourself is valued solely on you and who you are and who you look at in the mirror, and knowing that it doesn't matter what anybody else says, because all the fluff, I feel like, is just as detrimental as the trolls that come out in the night.
Don't believe your own press.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this about my story, but I had a picture go viral. Do you know this story?
What photo was it?
Me in a bikini? Oh. No, you don't know this. Okay, so we were in Mexico. I had just run the LA Marathon. So it was like, number one, this is the best shape I'm ever going to be in my whole life. We got a few days away from our kids. We go to Mexico. I had a shot of tequila, and I had just gotten this new bathing suit, and the top had a monogram. My family's Southern women love a monogram. At the time, I had about 5,000 fans on social media, and I thought, oh, I have a bunch of other moms. Like, I'm going to show off this bikini top. And I'd never taken a picture in a bathing suit before, and so I'm like, you do that thing like Instagram has been like, honey, take 100 pictures, we'll find one. And so he takes pictures, and the very last picture is I'm laughing because I feel like the most awkward. And I see the picture, and in the picture I have stretch marks all over my stomach because I carried 3 babies. And so I start to zoom in. You know that thing you do on an iPhone where you like zoom in, I'm going to cut it. And then I'm like, you know what? All the women who follow me are moms. They probably have stretch marks too. So I end up posting the photo, and I wrote something about the fact that I wear a bikini. Like, I wear a bikini, I have stretch marks, and I'm proud of this body and every mark on it, because there are so many women I know who would kill to be able to carry children, and they don't have that blessing. And so I'm going to rock a bikini because this is what my body looks like. So I post the picture, and this was back, my Instagram's connected to my Facebook, and I posted, it goes on both. And I remember we're sitting by a pool, and at the time I like went over to see, you know, you like make sure it posted okay. And it had 100 likes in like a minute.
Wow.
And I had never, I mean, that's nothing, but back in the day, that was massive for me. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And
maybe
then,
the algorithm changed.
Yeah. And then like 5 minutes later, it had 1,000.
Holy
and
cow.
then and we sat by a pool. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. We sat by a pool in Mexico. We would just watch this photo go viral. And it was, hundreds of thousands. And immediately people started, they would go to their bathroom and they'd take a picture of their stretch marks. They're posting their stretch mark photos, and it went everywhere. When I say that every press
News
outlet
site picked it up.
in the world picked it up.
Wow.
Everywhere. And I got to tell you, of all the things that you want to go viral, that's probably not it. Like, that was very overwhelming.
Wow.
But it really was the first time that I saw the power of just like being yourself, and how much women resonated with me being myself and showing all of it, not just the pretty stuff. And that was really what started to shift and change my career from like food blogger to stepping into this space. And I think this book is sort of the modern representation of what started like with that bikini photo.
Wow. It's kind of like that photo on steroids.
Absolutely. I was like, I'll talk about all the things. I'll talk about my stretch marks and back fat and peeing my pants and like all of the horrible, like, you don't have kids, so you've never walked through this with a woman, but like all of these horrible things that your body goes through. I'll just talk about it all. Because I feel like if I raise my hand and if I say, I've gone through this, I've walked through this trauma, or I've done this thing that's shameful or embarrassing, if I talk about my stuff, then I hope it gives you permission to talk about yours.
But what most people probably don't know is that you really didn't make much money for the first 5, 6, 7 years of your business, right?
Oh,
You were just working extremely hard, coming up with content. You wrote multiple books.
Yeah.
They weren't making a lot of money, it sounds like.
No money, no attention. Like, this is
no
the first...
followers.
Yeah. No, this is, I always had a community, but it was small. And I wasn't obsessed with the idea of how do we, like, I get this question all the time, like, how do I grow my social following? I'm like, serve the audience you have. Add value to the audience you currently have. I have the community I have because they keep talking about me to other people. Sorry, that's a side note. But I for years and years, every single penny that I made, I invested it back into the company.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I wanted to scale, and I knew I wanted to build something bigger. And this is the first time in years and years that I have put money. Like, I put a check in my bank account for the first time 2 months ago.
Wow.
And I cried like a baby. Because it wasn't... I'm so blessed that we were able to live off of Dave's salary, but there was something like psychological for me about being able to contribute. Like, I put money in our bank account. I don't know, it was a big deal.
Sure.
So
It's amazing.
yeah, so I just kept reinvesting, and it really has felt like, I don't know, like a snowball rolling down a hill. Like, all of a sudden it just took speed and went crazy after like pushing it for years and years.
But you had a lot of people saying no, and a smaller audience for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And you came out with book after book and speech after speech, and it wasn't like this overnight thing.
No,
which a lot of people think it is. Like, oh, she just came out with a book and it's crushed and 1 million copies, and I should be able to do that right away.
Yeah, no way. It like drives me insane, actually, because there's a little part of me, like, people have, as their books have come out, their first books, they're like, oh, I hope it does.
Hits in New York Times
with it. And I'm like,
does this.
I don't say it, but in my head I'm like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? This like, you're aiming at the wrong thing. My hope as a writer, and still is like, I hope there's one person that it resonates with. You know that feeling, I know you do, where you like go to an event or you have a signing or you get to meet someone who's been affected by your work, and you're like, oh, it was for you. Mm-hmm. It was for you. If you were the only person that got value out of this, that was worth it.
What do you think's helped it take off? You know, you launched it, you put it out there. Did it take off in the first 2 weeks?
No.
Or was it kind of like, was there a few different moments, like that photo you posted a few years ago, that was a big spike, and that snowballed into this and that?
This is 100% word of mouth.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. And if you go, I think it has over 75,000 hashtags on Instagram right now. This is just women telling other women to read it.
Wow.
I'm so grateful for my community because they are who made this successful. This was not, like, you can't as one person, do it. And we didn't have a budget to put against it. It was just like, hope it works.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's...
She didn't have a big campaign and press and media?
No, because it was the first time that I'd done a book like this, so there was no proof of concept, you know, the publisher was like, well, we hope it works. And that's the thing that I think people miss is like, you have to keep going. You don't even know who you're going to be. You don't know who you're going to be half a decade from now or 10 years from now because you stopped. Like, why am I successful and other people who want the same things and started at the same time aren't? Because when they heard no, they listened. I just kept going. Man, if you have something on your heart, if there's something that keeps showing up that you think like, this is like, I'd really like to do that, but what if they laugh? I'd really like to do that, but what if I fail? I'd really like to, but I'm gonna have to find childcare. Dang it, sister, like listen to that. Listen to that voice in your head. Listen to that voice in your heart. Like that is the real you begging you to step into who you're called to be. Like everything comes back to other people's opinions.
People pleasing.
Yes, they are drowning, women, myself included, drowning. I used to drown inside of what other people thought I should have for my life.
It starts with parents.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like I didn't come from a society, and I didn't marry into a family where it was super normal for a woman to be an entrepreneur, for a woman to be a writer, for a woman to be a speaker. That both Dave and I came from really traditional backgrounds where like dad worked, mom stayed at home and raised the kids. And so it was, I had navigated that for years of, I really wanted to build a company. I was really, it still excites me, like trying to figure out, okay, how do we scale this? How do we grow here? And it was fine. People thought it was fine when we needed the money. When we needed the money, when we were newlyweds and we needed the money, everyone was supportive of like this cute little thing that Rachel did. And then when he started to make enough that we didn't need that and we had kids, everyone immediately like, when are you quitting?
Wow.
When are you going to stop? And I was like, I just worked so hard to build this business. So I didn't want to stop, but I also didn't want to bother anybody. I didn't want to put anyone out. I didn't want anyone to be mad at me. And so I spent years and years building this thing. I don't want to say like in secret, but I would never talk about it. We worked in the industry, and if I went to an event and someone asked me what I did, I'd be like, oh, I'm a blogger.
Right.
I had a full-time staff of 5. We were doing really good revenue, working with some of the biggest brands on the planet, and I would be like, I'm just a blogger.
A
like
hobby
I would,
on the side,
yeah, my little side hobby, my little thing.
You were playing small.
Absolutely. We go to family parties. I wouldn't talk about my business at all because I knew that it would make people uncomfortable. Like
Wow.
And simultaneously, and I can call this out in women when I see it all the time now, is that when women do this, the number one symptom that happens when you do this is anxiety. Like when women tell me that they're suffering with anxiety, I'm like, who are you trying to please?
Ooh, snap.
Because it always,
Snap.
if I keep digging, it always comes back to that. It's like it's almost like you're living a double life. Like your heart is telling you you're one person and your brain is telling you, but you've got to fit into this box over here. And so for years I did this, and for years I suffered from anxiety attacks, and it took a ton of therapy and a ton of work to get to the other side of it, to be able to have the courage to be like, no, this is who I am.
Wow.
And not this is who I am, like, you know, middle fingers up, like a Beyonce song, like get out of here, you can't. No, like I am going to be so full of love with myself that I don't need to beg you for it with the way I live my life.
You don't need approval from anyone else. Because you can be happy alone or full of love alone.
Yeah, totally.
I think there are 3 fears that we struggle with the most. The fear of failure that a lot of people struggle with, and that's why they won't take on something in their life because they're afraid to fail. The fear of success, which is, I never had that.
Yeah, me either.
I was always like, I want to achieve this.
Yeah, when people ask me that in conferences, I'm always like, oh, I don't even know how to answer this.
So many people I say, how many of you are afraid of success? A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
But there's a weight and a responsibility of leaving people behind.
Yes, you're so right. That's always the thing.
It's like, well, if I do this, my family and friends won't.
Yes.
They'll like try to pull me down or something.
Yeah.
And the last fear, which I think you and I have and had, is the fear of judgment. Being judged for who we are, what we want, who we want to be, the things we say, the things we do, the passions we have in life. And that fear of wanting to please people and being judged. And at the center of all 3 of those is just, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
You know, we believe we're not enough.
Yeah.
And that's why we have these 3 fears. But when we can get past the fear of failure, success, and judgment, that's when we can step into anything.
Absolutely.
Anything.
Yeah. The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our FlexPath learning format lets you learn on your own schedule. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Possibility means you have a chance.
Passion opens the door to all possibilities.
When I feel like anything's possible, I feel kind of giddy.
I want to be an astronaut, an artist, an actress.
To visit another country.
All I need is a backpack and a pair of shoes, and I'll find a way.
That I'm able to do anything I set my mind to.
I've never felt like more things are possible than right now.
In the right shoes, anything's possible.
DSW, countless shoes at brag-worthy prices. Imagine the possibilities.